Looking back, my life before Jesus revolved around me. The only person that I ever cared about was me and my desire to be wealthy. This desire drove me to help to start building a publishing company. And we were close to making this farm publishing company come to pass. We were $50,000 short. We had talked to investors, and the one man that looked like he was going to loan us the money backed out at the last second. And I looked at what I had gone through for months and months, taking the money from our savings account, taking the money from our house, taking the money from the cars, and I knew that we were in bad straits. The only thing that I really had was a $125,000 life insurance policy, so I made up my mind to take my life. Didn't really matter because I was an agnostic. I didn't care about eternity. So May 20th, 1985, I walked into a friend of mine's insurance company, Bill Sheridan. He was a member of Full Gospel Businessmen, and we were sitting down talking about baseball, actually the Chicago Cubs. And he had mentioned to me about the Cubs were going to have a good year or a bad, didn't matter. But right in the midst of the conversation, he stopped and looked at me and said, "You're thinking about committing suicide, right?" And at that instant, because this was the day that I was going to take my life, that evening, I saw exactly how I was going to do it. I was going to drive a car right into the side of this bridge and get it over with. And I wept and I said, "How did you know?" And he said, "God told me." Now, for an agnostic to hear words like that, it was life-changing. And he ended up giving me his testimony, what he had gone through. And then he said, "I speak in tongues." I go, "Oh, this must really be real." And then he handed me a book by Merlin Carothers called Power and Praise. I took the book, drove home, and I was weeping the whole time that I drove home. I went in the house and I started reading this book. And on page 18, it told me how to give my life to Christ. Into the bathroom, locked the door, though there wasn't anybody else there. I looked in the mirror and said, "Jesus, I've tried everything else. I guess I'll give you a try now." And at that instant, Jesus came into my life and I was changed. And all I could think about was I needed to pray. And so what I prayed was footprints in the sand verbatim. Now the only problem is I didn't know there was a poem named Footprints in the Sand. A girl had sang it a year earlier at a high school graduation. And I repeated those words verbatim. So if you ever think the Holy Spirit can't put you in remembrance, you're talking about a guy at a high school graduation hearing a song and speaking those words in remembrance. My life was changed from that day forward. I fell in love with a man named Jesus. I woke up the next morning, called Bill Sheridan up and said, "What am I?" And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I gave him my testimony of what happened to me. He said, "Oh, you're a Christian." I said, "A Christian? That doesn't make sense. I've met a lot of Christians and none of them have been like me." And he said, "Oh, you're a born-again Christian." So from that day, May 20th, 1985 to now, I've been in love with a man named Jesus. There's never been a morning that I haven't gotten up and wanted to spend time with Jesus.